This is You Should Talk To, a podcast for busy marketing leaders who are looking for support and tips on getting shit done. In each episode, Daniel Weiner interviews marketing leaders and discusses their experience, successes, and failures around hiring agencies. If you're interested in finding and choosing the right agency partner, then let's jump in.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the You Should Talk To podcast. I am Daniel Weiner, your host. This podcast is brought to you by myself as well as You Should Talk To. You Should Talk To pairs brands and marketers for free with vetted agencies and or freelancers for virtually any marketing or tech need, because finding great agencies is a pain in the ass. Very excited to be joined today by a colleague turned friend, hopefully you agree, Kim Morales, who is Senior Director of Brand Marketing at Miller's Ale House. Give a round of applause for Kim. Thank you for joining.
Thanks, Daniel. Thanks for having me.
I know, a long time coming. We'll jump right in. What is an unpopular opinion you have, or a hot take of sorts, in the marketing world in general?
I don't know if it's that hot, but
I don't want it then.
Well, it sometimes hurts my heart, but I think in the end, most consumers don't really care about our marketing.
I'd agree.
They hate advertising. They want to skip through the commercials. They, will flip through a sponsored TikTok. It's hard. It's hard out there in a world being a marketing girl. So, we're just trying to get brands to love us and our people to love us.
As a marketing gal myself, I tend to agree. I actually posed the question. I don't even want you to answer it because I don't want to put you on the spot. But I ask a lot of people, if you just shut off your marketing in general, 100%. What do you think would happen? And I've had people tell me, like, I don't know, the business would change a crazy amount. So for certain brands, not all.
Yeah, I think it depends, but
that's fair.
Yeah, it's the world we live in, so it's worked even harder to stand out.
Yeah, you've had quite the culinary journey, I would say. You've had agency experience, lots of food and hospitality. You are now at Miller's Ale House. Tell us a little about that journey. And my biggest question is, what have you seen along the way in terms of like how consumer behavior has shifted?
So yes, I did start on the agency side in media, which is really great experience for anyone kind of want to get into marketing and trying to find your place. It's great knowledge to have, especially now media is so fragmented. So having that strong knowledge really does help you as a marketer. And I think, from once I started and then moving into the brand marketing side for Carrabba's Italian Grill and eventually Outback Steakhouse and now Miller's, it's just constantly a shift in consumer attention. Where can we find them at the most effectively talk to those people and the right people? And in the right way. When I was first starting out, I was working on public supermarkets, and they were planning 60-second TV spots and telling all these wonderful brand stories, and just how we've come so far to now you have to grab someone's attention in about 3 seconds in a TikTok video when they're going to see about 50 more before TikTok tells them they need to go to bed. So it's an interesting world, and a lot more fragmented, and you're really kind of trying to grasp for attention wherever you can, but really with the right guest in mind.
My parents moved from Atlanta to New York many years ago, and when I ask my mom to this day what she misses outside of me most about Atlanta, she says Publix. So shout out Publix. I'm curious, what should people know outside of the zingers, which I got to try for the first time in ages a few weeks ago? What should everybody know about Miller's Ale House? What do you guys got going on?
Miller's is, it's a great time. I, grew up knowing Miller's as the Tampa Ale House, where that's how Miller's started. First restaurant in Jupiter, Florida. So, grew up knowing as a place we go to and shoot darts and play some pool. And I think, now as the restaurant has evolved into Miller's Ale House, named after our founders, Jack and Claire Miller, that, it's still a great place to come and hang out. We have 2 big bars and lots of delicious food and 35 drafts on tap and 60 TVs. So you can watch any sports that's on at any time. So I think if you're coming to hang out with your friends and, just kind of relax and have a good time and come as you are, then, that's what Miller's has, going on at the moment.
plus the zingers.
Plus the zingers.
Plus the zingers. I'm curious. I talked to a lot of folks in your position, marketing leaders at brands in general. 2024, at least in my world and with a lot of people I chat with, hasn't kicked off as rosy as I think a lot of people were hoping. Still feels like a little bit of a state of disarray. I'm curious, what is your best piece of advice for other marketing leaders out there trying to, navigate 2024?
Yeah, it's just tough out there, but it's something that we haven't gone through before.
Sure.
If you've been in the industry as long as I have. But I think, within your company, being the voice of your consumer is always the most important thing. It'll come down to business decisions and sales driving decisions and how much money can we save to help us make the most amount of money. But if you're not keeping your guest or your consumer at the heart of that and being that voice for them at the table, when you're talking about business strategy, then that's truly the best way for you to kind of navigate through tumultuous times and tough times, because they're not going to go away. Everything is cyclical, and what's good will come back, what's bad will come back. It's just kind of riding that wave with your customer is going to be I think, my best piece of advice for everybody.
I think that ties into your hot take, which I agree with. And I think the reason is because a lot of times, myself included, like marketers, we come up with things that are for us instead of the consumer. Mm-hmm. Oftentimes when I'm talking to brands, we're having conversations around like, are you the target? Like, is this for you or is this for them? So I think your point of, keep the customer at the front of literally every decision that is made is excellent feedback. Yeah. Mm-hmm. My favorite question of the entire interview that I'll ask everybody is most folks in your position that I chat with are getting hit up like 700 million times per week by agencies, by vendors. I imagine this is the case for you as well?
It is, yes.
For a PSA of sorts, if you had to speak directly into the camera to all the agencies and vendors out there who would love, presumably, to do business with you and assume you're just sitting at your desk with a pile of cash, like ready to dole out hundreds, what would you say to those folks?
I'd say don't be upset if I don't respond to you.
That's fair.
Are
people getting upset with you?
No, well, now you have I've realized now there's a lot of automated Salesforce emails that come out, and it's just frustrating if I actually do respond to someone and say, hey, sorry, it's not right for me right now, and I still a day later get the automated Salesforce response. Hey, we still want to talk? I'm like, I just told you yesterday I didn't. But I think in the end, if the timing is right for me and for you and it intrigues me enough, I'll respond. I don't think it's worth either of our time if I'm taking a meeting to learn more, or you're preparing a deck or spending 30 minutes to show me something, if I have no intention of buying that product. So, or just not going to be right for me. It's kind of the way sales works. So I get it. There is, a right buyer for every product or for every agency. But, most of the time it's not going to be me. And I probably don't have enough budget for a lot of things right now anyway. So we're just talking about, tough times and in the economy right now. So, I think just don't be upset. Just keep working, and eventually, if it's the right time, if I do tell you no, then, respect that and move on.
Is there any expensive gifts you need or any restaurants you like that people can send you? I always try to get people, stuff they want on these, and people do listen to these. You will presumably get an email at some point that says, I heard you on the podcast. So,
well, what's funny is that there are, there's a couple tactics I guess there's a couple, and they'll be like, we'll give you this free Yeti if you take a meeting with me, or an Amazon gift card if you take a meeting with me. And I'm just like, I don't want to feel guilted into, if I see, okay, you represent this, I don't have a need for that. I'm not going to I'm sure there's people out there that get their free Yeti, and
they should just send the Yeti. That's the takeaway. If you want to send the Yeti, just send the Yeti and say we'd love to chat and eat the cost of the Yeti if you don't want to talk to them.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, yeah, that's the cost. I mean, that's what we're doing every day in marketing, throwing stuff out there and see what catches. So
I 100% agree. We ran a fun RFP process together with us recently, which I'll ask you a couple questions about. But the biggest thing I've seen, which makes me, I think, nicely positioned for brands like you all, is I've seen a huge shift, especially since COVID, a little prior, of bigger brands or just name brands in general moving away from bigger holding company agencies in favor of smaller, independent, more nimble is something I hear 100 times a day.
yeah.
Agencies that are typically specialized in like 1 to 2 things. What do you think of that trend? You've come from big, huge, name brands and stuff like that with
Yeah, I've
presumably
done
big
both.
budgets.
Yeah, I've done the holding company agency, and I've done the, small, couple of guys, working from home. But I think even the biggest brands don't want to be lost in a large agency. So I think the same is going for the talent at the agencies. So the smaller independents are attracting the great talent, or they're breaking out and doing their own thing. So they're not lost as well. So I think it's that intersection of, personal attention that a brand wants, and the talent wants some independence of, whether it's creative or strategy or research. I think whatever, the focus is. So I think it's finding that need between the two of, trying to be well serviced on the brand side and getting what you need. I think, nimbleness, of course, being willing to kind of move with the ebbs and flows of a business. And then having a great team that you want to work with that also has the talent. So I think it's where in the olden days, or maybe even 15, 20 years ago, the holding companies attracted the big talent. But now that, agency offices don't even exist anymore. They've all gone remote. So that culture that drove people to New York and drove people to big agency markets isn't there anymore. Everyone's sitting behind their computer at home from wherever they want in the world. So, I think that's also given people, the people that wanted to break out, now they can, because they don't need an office space.
I think it's COVID. I think it was the great equalizer of agencies, because talent was so dispersed to some of my most successful agencies are in, podunk towns, tiny markets that no one's ever heard of and stuff like that. Do you care if your agency? Do you have an opinion of agencies? I'll give you the answer to the test of why I'm asking. One of my unpopular opinions is I don't know that it always matters, but I seek out these days agencies who do have some sort of office presence, because I think it is not for every industry and every business, but if you're like trying to foster creativity, I've been in some of those rooms. Like, it is hard to replace over Zoom that sort of creative process often. So I think it's important for agencies, not necessarily 5 days a week, but to have presence or regularly get together. Do you have an opinion of that?
Yeah, I do think that there is something special, about having a group of creative people be together and talk together, whether they're at a business or at an agency. I did spend a short amount of time post-COVID at a decent-sized agency, and we got rid, it was post-COVID, so we weren't going in the office, but then eventually they got rid of one of the offices. So it did feel like it was missing some of that collaboration and inspiration that comes from being together. And then I think, agencies have always been a high turnover type of environment, just because, agencies are winning and losing business all the time. So you're going to where the business is. But I think from being remote, agencies are struggling even more to retain talent, because you can sit in the same seat and go make a little bit more money at the next agency on LinkedIn, and that's just happening a lot more. So I see their struggle. They have to find some really unique ways to make people feel a part of their culture, even when that culture is sitting behind a computer screen.
Yeah. Let's talk about the RFP for a minute. We introduced you to 5 agencies. You shortlisted to 3 to go through the actual pitch process. Any takeaways from the RFP process? How wonderful it was in general and streamlined and all that sort of stuff? No, I'm kidding. What was your biggest takeaway from the process? You've been involved in many a RFP.
No, I know. I truly loved the process with working with you, Daniel. No, Daniel did not make me.
I was going to say, this feels for your, this is like a hostage video. I'm like, read the card, Kim.
I know in my like boring corporate office, it probably seems like I am being like in a hostage holding room or something. But I think that, no, it was really great because I've done the agency holding company, like go through like the huge media agency review where it's months and
wild to me.
It's crazy. So to do this just in the right way, someone who knows people that knows me, we built a relationship, and then these agencies because you've worked with them and you feel like based on their what my needs and then what they would like be best working on. It was, so easy and fast, and a good fast, like a good, like I felt like we were moving quickly and getting to decisions, and the agencies, it all felt very collaborative. So I think I think you found a really great like niche of connecting brands to these agencies and freelancers too. We've even connected on, some pieces for copywriting as well. So I've loved the process and, keep recommending you to people I know in the industry. So I think it's a great way to get introduced to new agencies versus, just Google searching who can do this for me. Because that doesn't give you any sense into the people, because that's just, just their brand website or maybe some articles about them. So I loved every part of it. And honestly, probably the part that tells me that it was, the right way for us to go about it is that it was hard to make a decision.
It was a very tough ending to the down to the wire.
It's hard. Yeah, it was hard. I mean, it was great. There were great options, and we took a lot of time to think about, and as a team, like who do we really want to work with, and it was, I think that's like a great testament, because I've been in, those situations in the past where it was obvious from the beginning who you should go with. But yeah, I think there was a lot of great options for us, and it, excited that, we're going to be able to have an opportunity to work with them.
Awesome. No, glad to hear. I'm curious, from your past or over the course of your career, can you think of a really great agency experience that you've had and what made it so great?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've been fortunate to work with really great people from a lot of different agencies, big and small, and a lot of them we still keep in touch, whether it's LinkedIn or text or
they're sending you Yetis and Amazon gift cards. I send you alcohol. I was gonna say
that is the best kind of gift, but probably not the right way to meet somebody.
That's fair. I know you. That's better.
But I think that in the end, just, open and honest communications. Even with your best agencies that you have a great relationship with, you're going to have bumps in the road, or not going to, maybe they don't hit the mark on something that you've asked from them. But a lot of times, I think it's all about open communication. And I think great account directors can really make or break a business. So that's, they have the hardest job in an agency. I think they're trying to navigate between, all the different departments and keep them on track and keep them happy and explain to them what the client wants. And a lot of times they don't want to hear it because it's too fast. But I think it's up to that account director to have that relationship with the client, to be open and have the best interest of the agency. But, I think the marketer has to be the most open. If the client is not letting them know what's going on, or not giving them the whole truth, or you're not being open about why they didn't like something, or why they did, or giving them credit for great work that they've done, then, I think a lot of relationships probably hinge on, the marketer side to, that they're not being totally forthcoming. So
I would agree.
I think I've learned that it's a hard lesson to learn. It's hard to be honest sometimes when the feedback is negative.
Yeah.
But I think I've, throughout my career, I've learned that, being letting someone know very soon what the feedback is to the work, and being as productive and constructive with that criticism or feedback is really the right way to do it. But sitting on it isn't going to help you if you're just kind of like dreading having a conversation. It's, in the end, you shouldn't dread it once you actually have the conversation. Like, I think you say this, Daniel, just pick up the phone. Like, that's really, the best way. I
say that a lot.
You do say that a lot. Just talk to somebody,
A lot of people, that's like a lot of people's worst fears, of like just having it's always worse over email. But the reason I'm so much of a proponent of picking up the phone, it's also usually like, it takes like 30 seconds to just talk often versus like a 15 email thread, when you just like pick up the phone, which is why, I don't know, some people just can't. But to your point, I think the best clients and the best account people are tough but fair. I talk about when I was at an agency, my friend Jenny was my client for a while, and we remain friends to this day, which is not the easiest thing to do when you've worked with people, in that sort of role potentially. She was one of the toughest clients I ever had, but she was fair. Like, nothing she ever asked for was like insane, or I felt like, oh my God, like, I can't believe she's asking for this or stuff like that. She was tough. Like, she had high expectations, but it was fair, and she was open and stuff like that. And I think that's important for both sides.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm curious if you can be more specific, only because I want to see how it compares to everybody else. Can you think of like a specific scenario of an agency and what made that scenario great generally? Because I always want to hear if it was more like, I very rarely hear, which I'll ask on the next question, I very rarely hear what makes an agency great is the work. Whenever I ask people about their positive agency experiences and like what made it great, 99% of the time it has nothing to do with the work. It is, to your point, like, so-and-so was so wonderful to work with and made my life, stress-free, the communication, the experience. It's very rarely the actual thing, like, oh, the website they built was the best website we've ever seen. I'm curious if you can think of like a specific scenario and what was it that made it such a positive experience?
I think the work was certainly good. And I think that,
yeah, the work can't suck or you'll get fired.
Right. And I think, we were, probably some of the best experiences. I was working on a casual dining restaurant brand that was definitely, handcuffing the creative with all the levels of approvals and, number of times a limited time offer had to be mentioned in a 15-second spot. So I think the agency was creative as they could be within a lot of strict parameters. But, we dealt with a lot of interesting leadership, people on the team that, would cause a lot of strife for us, or headache, or unreasonable deadlines, or just sometimes straight up rudeness. So I think us having each other and realizing that, we were in this together. I think that's what really kind of made it great, that peer to peer, we were going to do this together, and that regardless of, higher ups trying to, throw some hurdles our way that just sometimes weren't very fair, we knew from both sides that that we were going to get through it together. And once those people were gone, it made our jobs a lot easier because we kind of been through this war together. And, it was, I think, a great experience to have together. And, I'd work with any of them any day again.
That's how it should be.
Yeah.
I think that's another one of my hot takes that I don't think should be a hot take. I often say, or I break agencies' hearts sometimes, where new agencies will tell me about all this stuff that they're the quote unquote best at. Or like proprietary process or something. And I generally, in a I don't mean it as a gotcha. I'm like, what makes it different from this agent? Or like, I'll say like, I have an agency who does that, too. I think people are the only thing that separates agencies these days. I used to think it was process. I don't.
They kind of all have the same process now because they've all moved around. The RFP process we just went through, everyone presented a process that was very similar.
Yeah, I think it is, truthfully.
It really is the people.
Yeah, I think when I was early in my career, I was like, oh, we have a great process. And then once I started doing what I do now, I was like, oh, everybody kind of has a reason. It's, again, everybody has the same process. It could still be terrible because it's executed poorly. But yeah, like in general, yeah, most agencies I work with have very similar process. It's the people executing the process that, generally make it different than anybody else.
Yep. 100%.
Now we'll talk about the negative. Kim, can you think of a negative agency experience you've had over the course of your career, and what made it so negative?
I think when an agency sells themselves for another piece of your business that they're not that great at, but they're like, oh, just add on a couple extra X amount of dollars, and then we can do this for you too. If it's not in their wheelhouse or in their expertise, then the work suffers, and then they end up losing everything at the end. So I think long and hard. If there's like just another, you've always wanted this piece of the business, and you finally get an opportunity. I think as long as you feel like you can really service it, and you have a strong expertise in it, then it's probably not going to be a winning situation.
I remind my agencies of this all the time. I actually the other day got a text from a brand side marketer who just finished selecting an agency of mine a few months ago for an RFP, and wrote like, hey, I just want to let you know things are going great. And they also wrote, which made me happier than the fact that it was going great, like, we're getting rid of X agency for this service, and they offered it to my agency, and they said, no, we don't want it. We don't do it good. We don't want to even which, again, I said, if they had said they could have done it, I would have told you they cannot, because I don't think they can either. But hearing that, no, I think it's such a risk for agencies to not even even if it goes okay or mediocre, just to get a bad rep, right? Like if they do one thing good, be known for that to you in that scenario. Have you say nice things about them for that, all that sort of stuff. I also put it sometimes, I can remember being in this position at my old agency where we would do something we were good at for a brand. And they would go, great, can you do this as well? And we'd be like, not really. And they'd ask several times, and eventually we would give in, and we would not do that thing super well. So I think it's also, not that it's not a nice thing. It's great if a brand trusts you enough to offer you more of the business. I think it's also on the brand to realize, if it doesn't seem like that they can do the work, don't force it just because you trust them to do the other thing.
Yeah, I think it kind of goes to your question earlier about, smaller independents or specialized agencies. I think a lot of the business that is going, I think marketing should continue to work with experts in the field. You're just going to, your loyalty program or your social media or your media, your creative, your branding, there is very few agencies that can do it all. And honestly, they probably shouldn't want to anymore. That's probably why most of the holding companies have this little agency that does this, and this medium-sized agency that does this, because they know that, the BBDOs of the world don't, necessarily do it all anymore. Yeah.
I'm curious, since you've worked in food a ton, I would say food in general, franchise food, QSR, whatever you want to call it, is the industry. Well, I work a ton in that industry, a lot because of you. Thank you very much. But in general, I hear the most where people are like, oh, we really want to make sure they have a ton of experience in this. And it's like a different animal, according to a lot of marketing leaders that I talk to, which I don't necessarily disagree with. But I also find from doing this that just because they have that experience does by no means... I find it just makes you sleep better at night often, because it's oh, they worked with these people, they can't be total monsters. I'm curious how you view that in the lens of what you're currently doing.
No, I don't think. I think if you don't think you have to have food experience to work in food, but I think you do have to demonstrate an experience to span across industries effectively. Yes, is it easier? Does it make me feel better if I know someone has already worked in food or retail? I can help envision it more. It is harder to envision, hey, if you've only worked in tech or, are you really going to be able to kind of jump into the restaurant business and understand it and talk in the way that we talk about it? So it's a risk. We're marketers. We're all risk adverse. We say we want to take the risk, but sometimes we're a little nervous about, if you make that one choice and they don't really end up working out for you. So it's just what's your risk tolerance for bringing on someone that doesn't have that quintessential food experience that someone like me, who I've been doing this for a little while, someone like me has.
That's fair. What are you most excited about in the marketing space at the moment? And I'm just going to start changing this question to say, don't say AI, because so many others have said AI. Unless it's really AI.
I'm not going to say AI because it doesn't really excite me.
We love to hear it. I'm going to clip just that. That's the whole interview. You heard it here first. Kim Morales is not excited about AI.
It's very cool, and I actually use it all the time.
This could be I don't even know if this is you. You could be AI.
Yeah, but I'm just like, I've learned it. We'll continue to use it to the best we can.
Yeah.
And machine learning has been around a little while, so it's definitely something that will continue to be a big part of our jobs. But people, you need the people element no matter what, I think, in marketing. But I think what makes me pumped, especially you talk about restaurant marketers, like the best restaurant marketers right now are so good at finding the intersection of brand and culture and developing culturally relevant campaigns. I was just flipping through one of our friends is on the, power list for Nation's restaurant news, I think. And I was flipping through all the people on it, and all the marketing folks were saying it's all about cultural relevance, and they're all finding their unique ways. So I think, it's a fun challenge to me to think through, okay, how am I going to communicate this to my guests and how connect with them in a different way? And just putting another, ad on Instagram isn't going to do it. I got to connect with them in something that's interesting to them. And it's a fun challenge. And I love that part of marketing.
Do you think TikTok will get banned?
I don't.
I hope not, because I don't know what I'll do.
How will you entertain yourself anymore?
It's my like therapy at night. That like my comfort scrolling.
Yeah, I think they have to find a U.S. buyer by January is the goal, but by then there could possibly be a new president, and so who knows what? But I think there's also legal, constitutional things behind that doesn't necessarily make that something that can stand. So I try to avoid it until I totally am banned from using it. But I have a strong feeling it's not going away.
I hope you're right, more than anything that you said on this podcast. We will finish with a couple fun ones here. What was your very first job?
My first job, and I asked you like high school or after college, and I think you didn't. You were like kind of whatever. But my very first.
No, I want the first job. The very first job. Yeah.
My like first job was at Einstein Bagels.
Love it. Yes.
In high school. I chose that job because I didn't have to work evenings.
Okay.
And I could go in right after school and be done by like 6:00.
Love it.
And they made me like just like an opening or a closing manager when I was like still 17.
Not even sure if that's legal, but
it
let's
wasn't.
just roll with it. Shout Einstein's apologies.
1997, like nobody really questioned it. And finally a new manager came in. He's like, yeah, you can't be the manager. But it was what I learned. I learned a lot about, teamwork and having fun. It was a lot of high school kids, and I was in charge of the high school kids.
While you were in high school?
While I was in high school. But it was a bagel shop in the afternoon. So who goes to a bagel shop in the afternoon? So we basically closed the restaurant. We had fun. We played like bagel baseball and,
a game as old as time, classic
right.
Bagel. Dare I ask what bagel baseball is?
Well, we would have these poles that had the newspaper on them. That like it was like kind of stacked, and so all the newspapers were wrapped up. So we would take out the poles and.
This could be the interview that takes down Einstein Bagels.
They haven't had the best run as of late, so maybe it all started at I was the beginning of the downhill.
I was going to say my usual follow up is did you take anything from that job into your current role? And I would guess maybe actually.
Well, I mean,
not the baseball. I mean, more just like learning early on how the inner workings of that world works.
Yeah,
multi-unit franchises.
I never knew that I would be in restaurants for, basically my career. I had no idea. So it was,
the youngest Einstein's closing manager in the history of the entire group, potentially as well.
Possibly. I feel like maybe there's an award for me somewhere someday.
The next question, we'll do a little two-part. What would your final meal be if you could choose anything?
There's so much good food in the world. That's hard. But I think probably like just an amazing sushi roll made by some of the...
One sushi roll?
Well, maybe a lot of them.
Okay, I was going to say, you can have more.
A whole one of those boats. Like
A sushi boat checks out.
Yeah, from like Bond Street Sushi in New York or Nobu or something really fantastic.
What's your favorite menu item at Miller's?
Right now, it is the Mimi's Fiesta Bowl.
Okay. I don't remember if I tried that when I went.
Yeah, it's a grilled shrimp and grilled chicken on rice with a bunch of sauces and sides, and it's delicious.
Okay, love it. And my final question, who's somebody who inspires you personally, professionally, or both? And please don't say Casey.
He does inspire me, but he's not who I'm going to say.
He inspires something, for sure.
I don't know. There's so many, and I was thinking like how I could. I don't think there's just one person, but I think over the course of my career, I've had some really great mentors and a lot of inspirational female leaders that I think kind of I've learned from, pieces from what they've taught me throughout the years, kind of made me who I am today.
Who you got? Well, we'll tag them on LinkedIn.
Well, I think that, oh my gosh, there's so many. Danielle Vona and Katie Knight and Judy Popke and Lisa Duncan and Meg Jokinen, and I could keep going.
This is like a Oscar Awards when the music comes on. You're like, no, I've got more.
I'll have to send you the list, and some of my best pals still inspire me. We connect a lot. Christy Job and Lisa Longest and Becky Murray and all of my food mafia that we so lovingly call my friends in the food industry.
I was going to say, a gang like no other.
I could go on, but yeah, I think I've been very fortunate to work with some very amazing people. But I think truly in the end, my family, my two daughters, everything I do is for them. So I just love them tremendously, and
That's awesome.
Hopefully inspire them to, be as best they can at school and work and everything they do in their lives. So that's truly what all this is for, is, family and who we get to spend our time.
You're going to make me cry on camera here again. No, that's great.
We're going through all the emotions today, Daniel.
I was going to say, I'll let you give a plug if you want. Any new menu items or any new happenings at Miller's that people should know about?
Well, I think, our restaurants are really focusing on, creating great experiences every day. So we have a new promotion coming up very soon that will feature our zingers, as you talked about. So keep an eye out for that. And then we also are beginning a partnership with the American Cornhole League, which is everyone's favorite backyard summertime sport.
Yeah,
so
that's awesome.
We'll be doing a lot of marketing and partnership with them over the coming months. So something that we talk about, things that are fun and things that I'm excited about. That's been a really fun partnership that I've worked on. So keep an eye out for stuff on that.
Love it. Cool. I suck at cornhole, but that's still exciting to hear.
Yes, I do too. So
all right, cool. Well, thank you very much for joining. Thank you for the opportunity to continue working with you, and we will chat with you soon.
All right. Talk to you later.
Thank you for checking out this episode of You Should Talk To. This show is brought to you by the company with the same name, You Should Talk To, a company that helps marketing leaders find the right agency or freelancer for their situation. If you enjoyed what you learned in this episode, make sure to follow You Should Talk To wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts, or visit youshouldtalkto.com for more information.